Many unreleased cards finally making their debut. Make sure you guys smash the evolving crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more content. So we're going to dive a little bit further into the Limit Over collection here, because there's a nice line of text here. It says, also many cards that first debuted in the various anime series will finally be brought into the official card game, while a ton of reprinted cards will also have brand new illustrations. This one line of text makes me bust out the idea here that we could finally be seeing the legendary Seven Roads Magician getting their port into the TCG. Now, this would be quite interesting to see the Sevens and the Galactic stuff actually finally getting this great appearance within the game, because Seven Roads Magician, you know, for what this was, I mean, it's been bound to rush tool, and that's kind of been the problem with it. I would love to see a TCG version of this, basically getting the chance to touch down, because we could do something with this. You know, I mean, what? Let's just send the top card of your deck to the grave. This card gains attack equal to the number of different attributes in your graveyard times 300. They could pump this up and turn this into an actual crazy boss monster. Now, there is the Galactic stuff. Fight for the light, good night. That's a flavor text, I gotta tell you. I will say, though, I love the art on this. Now, I mean, this does check all the marks of a standard boss monster. It's a 25/25. It is a level 7. You know, it's just, what can the rest of the support do around this monster that would make me want to play this over, say, something else, for example. So, definitely a choice if they chose to make this. I'd also love the Galactic theme to actually rewrite Kaito's cards and be part of this. Now, of course, we all want to see Ragnarok be a card. Ragnarok, activate only if there are any two of Dark Sage, Dark Magician Girl, or the Magician of Black Chaos on the field. And it removes from play all monsters in the hand, deck, and graveyard. And then it destroys all monsters your opponent basically has. Which, it's crazy to me that they made this card, because it is such an insane powerhouse. Getting a full wipe against your opponent is such an insane concept. I mean, like, I would love to see this card, but it's also on a quick play. You would have to nerf this down into the ground for this to be a much more acceptable card at this point, which is kind of crazy. We also do get to see the Magical Academy. Now, this card is a pretty inherent neg. It's discard 2 cards, special summon spellcaster monster from your hand, following the same conditions of a normal summon, then increase its level by 2 and its attack by 500, and negate the effects of your opponent's spell and traps that target the summon monster this turn. So it is a pretty heavy cost. I could see them overriding this, or giving it the number of cards you discard would actually put a attack increase value on this. I think that would be okay, but fundamentally, this card is too heavily costed in the modern era times to really warrant a major, you know, use. And then we have Aria from Beyond. Select one remove from play card and activate it on your side of the field. Now, the art for this is pretty straightforward here, actually. Just kind of like the voice of a card being called from beyond to actually beam it onto the field. I mean, this all play in, what, 217? So this kind of feels like a filler card, honestly, but still, very, very cool. We also have Necromancy. Now, Necromancy is a card I'm sure many of you remember, because it selects 4 random monsters from your opponent's graveyard and special summons them in face-up defense position to your opponent's side of the field. And each time a monster special summoned by this effect is destroyed, one face-up monster your opponent controls loses 600 attack. Now, for those of you that might not know this, this card was a very fun and awesome card that we got to use as we basically disassembled Guardian Yatos and all that fun stuff from that arc. And honestly, Necromancy, I'm sure that there'd be a way for you to basically redo the way that this card is, because bringing back and then attacking over like a Dark Paladin over everything that your opponent had would be quite interesting to see the application work, but, you know, you're just powering down non-targetingly a boss monster, which actually does have its warrants, I suppose. And then we have the Underworld Circle. Ah, this card was so cool. So it destroys all monsters on the field. Then both players remove from play all monsters in their decks. And then once per turn, each player special summons a monster from their graveyard. And while this card is on the field, players can ignore the summoning conditions required for normal summons or special summons. And when a monster is normal or special summoned by this effect is destroyed, it is removed from play instead of going to the graveyard. This as a floodgate would be insane, especially if you could remove 3 Necroface with this, and then all those Necroface trigger. But you would have to put an errata on this that very simply just says, hey, whatever we're removing with this, you are not going to get the ability to strap on those effects. Like, they have to limit you. Whatever's removed from play by this cannot activate their effects. It would be what you would have to do. So, very simple fix. And then we have Eris, an Earth fairy that has a rare quality about its style. It prefers to fight with weapons rather than spells. Now, this comes in at an 1800, 1400. Now, this was a card that actually, I guess, was played by Noah. Or something along that way. It is actually kind of tied back to the old video games, which is interesting because we actually can see these old video game cards actually coming up and mattering in the more modern era times, which is really, really cool to me, actually. I love the fact that we can see something like this being relevant, and Noah and Darts did get new support. And then, of course, for Odeon, we have to talk about the Cup of the Sealed Soul. So when the cards Temple of the Kings and the Seal of Serket are both assembled, the special summons the Mass Beast Serket. And we've seen this card show up in other arts. And also, I mean, the Seal of Serket, when Temple of the Kings allows you to summon out Serket too. They can very easily remake both of these cards and actually do the thing. Like I said, we've seen this card pictured on art before. It's just we've never had the cup, as its own thing. We also got the Kunoichi Ayama, the Ninja Girl. Now, for those of you that might not know this, we are missing a lot of Jean-Claude Magnum's really off-the-wall ninja cards that they had played in their deck, which I would love to see some of these more interesting ones. So Dazzles and Swift Movements, a subordinate of the Shogun. And also, this is only, level 2? It doesn't even look like it has very impressive stats there. All right, we also have the Pillager. So look at your opponent's hand and you can steal 1 card. The Pillager is one of the most cost-free hand rips that kind of exist in the modern era times. And I do think if this card does become a real card, it is going to be a little bit problematic. If we've not learned, cards that rip into the opponent's hands, especially cost-free, might I add you, are very, very, very strange. We actually have the Magical Neutralization Force. All magic loses effects on the field where this card is placed. Now, you might have remembered this card being something that really showed up during Pegasus's duel versus Yugi, where you were basically able to dispel the inner magics of the Toon World. This card is... You would have to change the effects of this to make it a more relevant card in modern times, but it can very easily be done to make this work out. And then we have the negation or negative energy, double the attack of all dark monsters on the field. For how old this card is, I'm afraid that Konami's afraid of what this card could do, because fundamentally, this card does break the mechanics of the game. Turning a Dark Magician to 5k, turning an entire dark field of monsters into a crazy lethal force could be a problem. You gotta be very careful with what you're unleashing with this. So I do think that negative energy is a card that we could realistically see, but at the same time, it's a very, very, very coin flip would this card break the game. We also have the Tears of a Mermaid. So activate the moment your opponent's face down monster becomes face up. All enemy attacks become neutralized. This is funny. So activate when your opponent's face down card becomes face up. All enemy attacks become neutralized. That is such a bad wording on a card. It's crazy. But it's just, I guess, when a monster goes face up, you go, nope, we're not dealing with this. Such a bad card. And then we have the Chain of the Underworld. Activating only when an opponent's monster is destroyed. Your opponent draws a card and special summon the destroyed monster your opponent's side of the field. In attack position, it loses 700 attack. Yes, you have the ability to pull back something that just died and give it, you know, if you need it for like an effect or something, you can actually use it. And that's kind of crazy, actually. We have cards like this that can work it. As you can clearly see, there are so many unreleased cards that we could eventually get that can tip the scales, maybe not in a good direction or a more helpful direction. It really just depends. But from where we're sitting right now, we will have to wait and see what more is to come. So please leave a comment down below, tell me what you guys think, and I will see your beautiful faces back here in a day, guys. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.